Are you curious about how designers and merchandisers create cohesive collections that sell well? In the previous video, we explored the use of a technical flat garment sketch and how it's utilized in the product creation cycle. In this video, we're going to explore how that technical flat garment sketch is used for visual purposes in other areas of the fashion industry. So let's go over this process now. You may have gotten here through the QR codes in the fashion design book. And in case you did not come here through that QR link, I wanted to let you know where we are in the book. We are on page 14 and we're talking about technical flat garment sketch in the garment industry. Besides the technical garment sketch that we need in black and white, we've already talked about coloring up and using all of these sketches for visual purposes in the garment industry. So those exact flat sketches might be rendered up in multiple colors so that we can decide how to merchandise them and what garments go well together. Now, where does that fall into the process in the flow of the product creation cycle? Well, this does definitely vary. Some companies might call out specific different colors in the merchandising process or product manager level with the brief. They might say, okay, this style sold really well because of the color, we think. So we want to create something elevated in that same direction, in that same color, but something new. And let's talk about those other teams that might come into playing into the coloration process. So the coloration might be driven by the merchandise team or product management team, category management, depends on what they're called. But more than likely that coloration process is driven by the designer. In high fashion, it's definitely driven by the designer. It can be influenced by the merchandising team or sales team as well. So the designers then have passed it on to this product creation cycle that we talked about already. But the designer's work is not done. They need to now go from that black and white sketch and color up all of those different colors and decide which colors go in which styles. So we have the design team. That designer is passing off that garment sketch to those other teams, but they also often, before that handover takes place, have a complete line review meeting. And this has happened in many of the companies I've worked for. And they look at the overall collection on the black and white sketch level before they start the entire handover. Then after that, everyone is clear about the direction we're going with the collection. They do the handovers, then it starts creating in the product. But that designer is then, after that process is done, black and white's done, let's go to the color. Then they have to color up all the styles, which are then called SKUs. SKU, that means however many colorways, each SKU is one colorway. So we have color up the styles to create the SKUs. So we might have 5 SKUs for one style, meaning 5 different colorways. And once that coloration process is done, they might have, let's say, 10 different colors here, or 3 colors here, or variables based on that original briefing and what's needed in the collection. Then they will do the entire collection and see how the sales team likes it. And this can be done in different types of meetings, product line review meetings, often referred to as PLMs, or collection meetings, merchandising collection meetings. It just depends on the type of company you're at and what they call it. Design review meeting, all of those things. So we have this meeting, collection meeting. Designers have it with the merchandisers usually, and they present it to the sales team. And not the entire sales team, but probably just the leaders of the team. It just depends on the brand. Sometimes marketing might even come in. Usually marketing comes in a little bit later, but it could be that the head of marketing comes in to start getting the direction of the collection, and then also in any management that might be involved. So then they start reviewing that collection as a whole with the coloration process. Sometimes this meeting can come earlier in the design process, and it can be a little bit harder because sometimes the sales, retail, marketing teams can't visualize the same products once it's colored up. It's a little bit harder to visualize it until it's colored up. So it just depends on the brand though. So in high fashion, often that design process is being driven more by the designer and less by the merchandiser, even with a briefing. Then the designer might design that collection. They might not even have a developer, might just have pattern maker, technical designer. Technical designer might handle those development tasks, and it just really depends, but it's some variation of this similar process. Then sometimes that meeting can be directly with the buyer instead of the sales team. Just depends on the setup. That's how the visual process works with flat garment sketches once they are rendered in the garment industry. So can you see how once those garments are rendered, that visualization process becomes so much more easy to see how that collection is looking? And that's generally why that collection is presented to sales teams, marketing teams, or buyers in order to visualize the collection beyond the technical sketch, because sometimes it's harder to visualize that technical sketch and how it will translate into the garments. Now, when that collection is presented, you'll notice that those flat sketches are generally what are presented to sales teams or buyers because they are still proportional. It's generally not the fashion illustrations. And that's why the fashion design book is so helpful, because it is closer to actual body proportions. And because it is proportional, it's a better representation of what the stores are going to look like with their merchandising. This merchandising strategy of mixing and matching many colorways together is helpful not only for designers and merchandisers, but also for the home sewist or aspiring fashion designer. It helps you mix and match your entire collection to make sure you don't have any pieces that just don't fit in. In case you've ever sewn or bought something and never ended up wearing it because you don't have something that matches, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. We need to do a merchandising exercise like I show in another video of rendering this mini collection, and do that exercise before we sew up those clothes. This process is definitely underutilized in the home sewing community, and it's also underutilized for stylists. Stylists plan wardrobes for many different people, and if they started to draw and sketch out those garments, it would be so helpful to see that mixing and matching process. It also helps to visualize it for clients. Besides drawing manually with the fashion design book, now there are so many different software options. There are different fashion design apps or different CAD software that allows you to draw digitally. Something like Adobe Illustrator is used throughout the entire garment industry to digitally draw garments. That's exactly what I used to draw the fashion design book. In case you would like an Illustrator version of the book, you can find it through the link in the description below. There is also 3D software, which is amazing. And this 3D software takes a flat pattern and drapes it onto a digital avatar mannequin. You can visually see it and then create a flat garment sketch or a fashion illustration type sketch. That type of sketch would be definitely used by merchandisers or even marketing. So after viewing this entire product creation cycle with the technical flat sketch and the visual purposes in the fashion industry, can you see how important this flat sketch ends up being? It is the basis for product creation and designing. This is why I absolutely love flat sketches. You can go technical or you can go visual. There are so many different options with it. And it is that first step in designing. Get used to drawing flat sketches with the fashion design book. It's going to become much easier for you as you visualize that product before you sew it or a factory sews it. In case you want to download the mini collection like I showed in the visual of today's video, you can find the link for it in the description below. That way you can practice those merchandising skills and watch the other video about how I render it with markers. In the fashion design book, there is an entire library of silhouettes and fashion details, along with a lot of terminology used in the garment industry. And this book helps teach you how to draw flat garment sketches through videos just like this one. I'm Gina Renee, and I teach online pattern making and design courses so that you can design the clothes you love that fit. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.